Hello, before we start our episode today, we will be sharing a story of someone who did tragically take their own life. Our purpose is to shed light on the situation and share this individual's story. Just please be aware that this content may be distressing to some listeners. So if you or someone you know needs help, please reach out to a mental health professional or a crisis helpline. Our aim is to shed light on the funeral service industry. With that, let's get started.
Here we go.
Do it.
Okay, cool.
Here we go.
Welcome to week 2 of Coffin Talkin'. I'm your host, Holly. I'm here with the mortician himself, Frank. Welcome back.
Thanks, Holly. Can you hear me
Good
okay?
to be here. Yeah.
Good to be seen. It's always good to be up. It's always good to be up and taking nourishment.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the people that we talk about on this
That's
podcast.
correct. When people
We're
when
one
people,
of the lucky.
Yeah, when people leave me, they always say, "I hope to not see you again." I said, "Well, if you do, please walk in. Don't let us wheel you in."
Don't wheel it.
Don't let us wheel you in. Mm-hmm.
Always a good distinction to make.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, Holly, how's your week been?
It's been great.
Have you had any highs, lows, funnies, anything that might have happened?
Oh, that's a good question. We went to an animal shelter and I found a dog that I fell in love with.
Mm-hmm.
And he was amazing.
But
And then we contacted our landlord and she said, "You're not allowed to have a dog." So we're sad over here.
That is too bad. That is sad.
Yeah, it's sad. So I'll just watch from afar the golden retrievers from my window that I currently stalk every night as they're at the park.
The golden retrievers. That's phenomenal. Wow.
They're great. They
How many are there?
going. There's 2.
Mm.
One
Fantastic.
runs, one sits. It's perfect. I relate with the sitting one.
Okay. All right.
But it's just great. So, yeah. How about you? Any fun updates?
Fun updates. No, not really.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing other than what you're going to share with us today.
Mm-hmm. People are getting weirder when it comes to funerals. We'll have to do a podcast on funeral etiquette.
Yeah. Getting weirder.
Yeah. And we can talk about that later. Just keep that in mind. That
I have so many questions that I'm
you
not going to
mentioned that
ask
about
right
being
now.
weirder, and okay, let's talk about etiquette for a moment.
Stay tuned, and we'll see how people get weird at funerals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then let's just jump right into it.
Do you do your thing?
What thing? Oh my heck! I almost forgot, and this is my favorite part. We all know what time it is.
It's what? What is it, Holly?
It's time to be Frank.
All right. Thank you, Holly.
With the man himself.
Fantastic. So, again, thank you for joining us this week. We have interesting. I want to share with you an interesting story this week. And so none of my family, I don't think, has heard this story. So of all the stories that I've ever told, and I've told a lot of them to our family, and you'll eventually hear these on the podcast, but this one is a little bit different only because, well, I'll let you decide. So, Holly, again, if you have any questions or concerns or think I'm saying something that others may not understand what I'm saying, please stop me.
Gotcha.
Okay? Thank you. So let's start out with this particular day. I had 4 families that I was to be meeting with. So the first arrangement, or the first family that I sat down with, was uneventful, really. It was pretty straightforward. The second family that I sat down with, it took a little longer. So the third family was waiting in the foyer or in the lobby. And so finally the second family finished. The third family came in and sat down. During the arrangement conference of the third family, I received a first call. Again, let me stop for a minute and talk to you a little bit about a first call.
Yep.
So a first call is something that whenever a death occurs or someone has passed away, who do you call first? It's not Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it's not Ghostbusters, Holly. The first call generally goes to the funeral home. So that's why we call it a first call. So I got a first call, and I'm going to call the gentleman David. He was a young 19-year-old young man, passed away at his own hand.
Okay.
So I think most people understand what that means. But I got the call, and I just thought to myself, well, okay, I'll call them after my next appointment, after my next family is over. So the third family finished, and again, totally uneventful. But I always like to walk families out to the front door and say goodbye to them, thank them for their time and the ability to actually interact with them and allow them the opportunity to do whatever they want to do with regards to the disposition of their loved ones. So we were at the door. As I was walking out to the door, I have this huge grandfather clock just outside just inside the doorway. And I had just passed the grandfather clock, and I noticed in my peripheral vision someone sitting on the couch. So I looked over to him, and I just kind of motioned to him like I had acknowledged him. I just kind of waved at him and said, hey, I see you. Okay, I know you're there.
I'll get with you in a minute.
That's correct. And so I ended up saying goodbye to the family. They had all left. I turned around, and again, I motioned to this young man that I would be there in just a minute, just to help him. Now, in reality, I had this other fourth family coming in, and I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, I got another family that just walked in. I don't have time. Yeah, perfect. It was terrible timing. I don't have time to actually sit and find out what this young man needs. But being as kind as I possibly can, after finishing up the paperwork where we had just been sitting making the arrangement, I walked into the office, put that file on my desk. Then I thought, okay, I got to go out and see this young man, see what he needs. And so I walked out to the front, rounded the corner, and there was no young man. He wasn't there. And so I just walked outside, and I thought to myself, where did he go? Where could he have gone? And so I walked outside, walked around to the corner of the parking lot, and nowhere to be seen. Didn't see him. He just wasn't there. So I walked back into the building, and I looked at the clock, and I said, okay, we have 7 minutes before this family's late to be here to make arrangements for their loved one. Right. So they were right on time. They came in right at the 7, whatever time it was scheduled for them to come in. Totally forgot about the young man. Totally forgot about the young man because he never came back. Sure. And he never, it never entered my mind to think, because some people come in all the time. They just come in to see what the place looks like, and then they turn around and leave. So it's not really, and it was not a mystery.
Like a, hey, I dare you to go inside the funeral home.
Yeah, one of those things. One of those things, right. Now, I do remember that it was Arizona Cardinal Day, and so I do remember his outfit, and he wore a red shirt and white pants, and very clear. I would never forget his outfit because it was so distinctive. No one wears that.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
And so, anyway, so I finished with this other family, and then I thought, oh my gosh, I got that call on the 19-year-old. I better call the family and find out exactly when they want to come in. So I went ahead and called the family. We had a discussion on the phone, almost a full arrangement on the phone. Mother was completely devastated at the passing of her son. Very devastating, and suicide does that to a lot of families. And you always raise the question, why?
Yeah. Was there something I didn't see?
Yeah. And so with that, as the understanding, we had set the appointment for 10 o'clock the following day. So we had, and I'll call her Rosa, because this was a Hispanic family. But Rosa and her family comes in. There was probably about 7 of them that came in to make the arrangements, which is fine, excepting when discussions start to happen. Yeah, because then you don't ever get anything done immediately. Everyone has
an opinion.
Chime. That's exactly right. Everyone chimes in. So Rosa decided that she wanted to have her son viewed. And she told me that he had committed suicide. And I said, how did he do it? Because I need to know as an embalmer. I want to know what I'm going to be dealing with.
What am I looking at?
Yeah, provided when we get permission to bring him into our care, what exactly am I mentally going to be thinking? Okay, this is what I need to do. This. Well, turned out that he shot himself, but he didn't shoot himself in the head. He shot himself in the heart. And so
Okay.
I breathed kind of a sigh of relief, and I
Right.
almost hate admitting that because you just don't want to admit that to family.
Yeah, it's not a relief
Mm-mm.
because he's
So
still gone, but it does make an open casket possible.
it does, yeah. Even if he shot himself in the head, I would still say that I could probably make him viewable. But anyway, in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, okay, good. Now the family will have a better feeling, a better experience.
Better remembrance of
Yes,
last moments.
with the funeral, with the viewing, because obviously there was no trauma to the head. So I didn't have to do anything to the head. So anyway, went on ahead and I ordered things for them. And as they were leaving, and I said, hey, just so you know, the services are on Friday. This is like a Tuesday. I said, you've chosen Friday for a viewing and then a Saturday service. So I would really like to have his clothes on Thursday. And she goes, what about a picture? And I thought, oh, they didn't want to run an obituary. They didn't want his picture on the prayer card or the funeral folder. And I just thought, let's appease Rosa. And I just said, bring in a photo. It'll be fine because that'll help me during the embalming process to kind of get a feel for what he looks like.
Yeah.
So I went on ahead and did my thing with arrangements, getting other things done on other family members and other services that we had actually scheduled for when Rosa came in on Thursday. And I said, oh, Rosa, hi, how are you? And she came in alone. And she said, Frank, it's so good to see you. I'm so sorry that we took so long with you the other night. The simple apologies and pleasantries were happening. And then she goes, here's his clothes. These were his favorite clothes. So she handed me a stack like this. And immediately I just saw a red shirt. Didn't think anything else about it.
Okay.
And then she said, my 19-year-old son, this was his latest and most current photo. And she hands me the photo. And who's in the photo?
From Cardinal Day.
Who's in the photo?
The young man.
The young man that was just in my lobby.
Yep.
The day he was killed, or the day he killed himself.
Oh my gosh.
He was in the lobby waiting. I guess he knew his parents would be coming there. Maybe he was waiting to have them come in to kind of see him, greet him. I don't know what the case is, but for me, when I looked at that photo, I looked at Rosa and I said, I think I've seen your son before. And she
really?
goes,
so you did? You just told her?
Oh, yeah.
Right away.
Oh, yeah. And I looked at her and I said, I think he was in this building. And she goes, oh, no, we live in Chandler. There's no way he would have come down here to be in the building.
Right.
And I said, Rosa, I saw your son sitting on my couch the day I received the call that he had passed away.
Uh-huh.
And she just started crying.
Oh.
And she mentioned to me as that conversation was going that he had a favorite, I guess, dog. It's a Chihuahua. I don't really count him as dogs.
Rat dog.
Whatever. Yeah. But he had a favorite Chihuahua. And whenever he would walk into the house, that Chihuahua would stand up, wag its tail, and bark. 2 barks. Just 2 barks.
Just 2.
Just 2. Didn't yap on, didn't do anything else. And she said, and it's the funniest thing that this dog, Gilberto, I think his name was Gilberto, Gilberto, would do that for almost the full week after he had passed away.
Really?
And so she only could conclude that, unbeknownst to her, that her son was visiting the house.
Right. What else do you think of?
Exactly right. And the only one that would pick up on that is the dog. So
brain.
Anyway, I think that that story for me was just another way of showing, I don't want to call it a testament, but another way of showing that we live on. after our life is ended here.
Yeah.
That somehow or another, we still have that ability to push forward, what we might call that veil or that curtain of
Right.
ignorance
Mm-hmm.
and non-understanding. But knowing that, and I think the reason I saw him that day was so that I could reassure her
I'm sure, because I
that
mean,
he was
even
still alive.
yeah, what do you think about this? Do you think that people who've passed away, because obviously you saw him, and do you think it was because it was so soon after, immediately after it happened, after he had died, or was it he chose to show you that he was there so that you could communicate that to his mother?
I think maybe both. And I think that
Yeah.
once the death occurred, I think it's probably surprised his inner soul so
Right.
much that he still wanted to say something that he wasn't given the opportunity to. And so I
Right.
think that if with him there would allow someone that could probably see him. I don't know that everyone saw him. If
Right.
they looked at him, if everyone would have seen him, I don't know. But I
Mhm.
do know this, that he was there 1 minute and not the next.
Right.
So that's the reason for the title of this one. Now you see me, now you don't.
Now you see me.
So anyway,
That's so interesting. Does that ever give you like some sort of hope? Because I imagine, I mean, this is a tough industry to be in, dealing with death every day. So does that, just knowing, like, I don't know, I'll say having faith in that and having those experiences, knowing that there is something after this life, does that help you push on? Do you think you would be able to do that if you didn't have faith?
I'll just tell you this. It does bolster my faith, but the thing that I can probably say without a doubt is I can honestly say when someone comes into the facility to make an arrangement, I can tell where their faith lies.
Really? Why is that?
Because people will either be happy that the death has occurred because they have a foundation in belief that they are continuing to live. Or someone that, and this is the phrase I hate the most, I never got to say goodbye to him. I never got to be able to actually experience with him. He died before he should have, something like that. I hate the comments of despair. I'll never see him again. And I think you will.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah, of course. How could you not?
Yeah, I agree.
How could you specifically not after having all of these experiences?
Yeah, but I think that a lot of the experiences that we'll share over the next couple of podcasts, I think I was privy to them just so that I would share that with the family.
Yeah. You've probably got a good rap in that spirit realm.
Maybe.
People are saying, "Hey, you show yourself to Frank, he'll get the message across."
Do what now?
Deer in the headlights moment.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, so I just think that it was important that she understood, and then I'm sure that she passed it on to her family, because even at the viewing, and this is the other thing I don't quite understand, but some of the children, the brothers and sisters, would say, "Hey, we heard what you told Rosa. Thank you. That gave her strength." Well, it's true. It's not that I said it to give her strength.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I said it because it was true.
Because
but they were saying,
him.
yeah, but they were saying it as though I'm saying it to help get her through the grieving process.
Oh, that makes my skin crawl to think about.
And so that was the thing that I hated.
Possibly think that you're taking advantage.
Yeah, well, but one of the sons specifically, the older brother, I think he was 23 at the time, said, "Hey, what you said to my mother was encouraging her. So thank you." Okay. And I just looked at him and said, it was true.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was buried in his red and white. So on a Cardinal game day.
Cardinals fan through and through.
I don't know if it was cardinals. I just know that the colors were red and white.
Huh.
So that's how I remember it.
Wow. Yeah, I guess when you have experiences like that, what do you do with it? Like, what's your big takeaway from that?
First of all, I wonder why. And
Why
then,
you or
yeah, I wonder why that experience would have happened to me or why I
uh
would have been part of that experience. But then the second is, as I think it through, I just think I can't, there's a reason. And I'm not a one to bottle those experiences up. I have to tell the family what I've seen, good or bad.
right, right.
Let
Good
it
or bad.
fall. Yeah, let it fall where it may. But they need to know and understand what it is that's actually taking place. So
Yeah. And have you had experiences where family reacts badly and you are honest with them and you say this happened and they react poorly?
yes. And that's actually the one I want to share with the next podcast.
All
So
right.
I don't know.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they were thinking.
Uh-huh.
It would seem to me like that message was one of hope because they
Oh,
actually did talk to me. And I'll share this with you. They actually did talk to me and tell me what to tell the mother and the sister.
right.
So when I told them that, it's you're a liar. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And there's more to the story. I mean, the sister did call me back and said, "Look, you and I both know you wouldn't have known that information without being taught or without talking to him."
Right.
So
Oh my gosh.
sorry, my
But
mom
some
called you a
people
liar.
just aren't. Yeah. I'm sure it's such a shock and everyone responds to death so differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
it's kind of dangerous water to tread.
Mm-hmm. Plus,
Committing to be honest.
it's always different. It's different with
Right.
everybody. Everyone can take it with a like, oh well, so what? Get rid of him. That type of
Right.
attitude, or we got to do everything for him. And there's a happy medium between the two.
Yeah. Definitely. That you hope that they can eventually reach.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's what I have for this week. So I hope
Great.
that someone learns or gleans from it the importance of knowing that if anything, you should know that life goes on.
Yes.
And
Yes.
whether
Yeah.
you are a believer of that or not,
Yeah.
I've had enough experiences to know that it does.
Right.
And
And
I
this
don't,
is, I'd say, even people on the margin of faith, I'd say, often turn to people who have had near death experiences or, you know, died on the operating table or came back
mm-hmm,
because they find some sort of hope and say, okay, if that person had that experience, then there must be something
yeah.
to this whole faith thing. And I think you have a very unique position and a role to play in that just from your career and the experiences that you've had.
Let me ask you this, Holly. Have you ever considered what someone may say? For instance, you believe in spirits, right? You believe that there's a
Yes.
soul. Okay. Do you
No,
believe
I
that
think you were lying my
Oh.
whole life. I was that
Wow.
person. I was like, you're
Wow.
lying.
Thanks,
I'm
Holly.
talking to everyone at the services saying he's lying.
So,
Right. Okay.
so the question I have is, does that soul linger until they're finally disposed of? I mean, to either where they're cremated or,
Disposed of.
yeah,
Oh,
to
their
where they're
body.
buried, to where they're buried or cremated.
I don't know. That's a very good question. I think a lot of it would have to do with how prepared they were for
Mm-hmm.
death and obviously their faith. Because, I mean, I'm just going to say, whatever faith you have or lack of faith you have, there is an afterlife. So if you're not prepared for that, then you're probably going, what the heck is going on? Let me get as close as I can to my body
Mm-hmm.
because that's something familiar. That's what I know. And then maybe, yeah, especially in the case of, well, I guess in the case of cremation and burial, either way, you have to find a way to cope. It's just like this life where something bad happens and you have to find a way to cope. You have to move on.
Mm-hmm.
There's continual progression. And so that is a very interesting question. I don't know if Obviously, I think that the spirit lives on even after their body is gone or buried. But as to whether or not they're in your mortuary, I think that's something to think about. I wouldn't see the purpose of them hanging around when their body is gone, unless they really like your jokes or something. I don't know.
I think they like my good mornings. I mean, every morning I walk into the cooler and I address every single one in there.
Really?
By name. And say, hey.
By name.
Yeah, just want you to know I'm still aware that you're here. We're still
So
working
see,
on it.
you're kind of asking for it.
Maybe.
You're
Maybe
saying, hey, I'm talking to you. I know you're here.
Yeah. I know.
Which I think it's great too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, with the faith that you have, this person is probably really confused on the other side. If I can just acknowledge them and they can have some sort of contact, then that's probably helpful for them.
I just feel bad because sometimes when you make that acknowledgement, and I'll be selfish about it. I'll tell you, I don't like bad juju going around in the building. I don't want ill feelings. And I strongly believe that a spirit can still be offended. And I don't want that. I just don't want that.
Yeah. So even just the lack of acknowledging, we're going to stay away from. Because you don't want them haunting your kitchen cupboards. Mom would freak out. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Judas Priest.
Yeah, actually, I can imagine.
Yeah, great. Maybe that's another story.
We've had a couple of experiences in the home.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know if you remember those or not, but there's been a couple of experiences in the home too.
I think I distinctly remember 2.
Were they shadow people?
1. Maybe that's a different topic. Maybe that's another cliffhanger. Come back and we'll talk about
shadow
people, because that sounds super ominous and creepy. And let me tell you, it is. So, yeah, I remember
even at the crematory,
we have to bless the house, bless the crematory.
At the crematory, you remember my friend right there. You remember my talking to my friend there?
Your friend that always swiveled on the chair? Is that who you're talking about?
No, that's part of that will be a story brought up again. But yeah, that's another podcast. But that's a whole, oh my gosh. That's a
your
whole
friend.
Night. Yeah. I called him Bob Martin.
Bob Martin?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. Western Bob.
He was a cowboy?
I'll tease you with this one. You know those silhouettes that you see sometimes, those Western guys that they are leaning up against their home or something?
Please, I lived in Texas.
That's him.
Was that Bob?
That's Bob.
Oh my gosh.
And he was the type of person that would show up off and on in the crematory.
Really?
Yes.
Well, here's the answer to our question. Even after he was out of your facility, his body?
I don't even know who that guy is.
You're kidding. He was a random.
Yeah, he just started showing up.
You do have a rap in the spirit realm.
Maybe. But
people
he never
saying go tease Frank.
Yeah. go bother Frank.
Play a trick on him.
Let's see how far over the edge we can push him this week.
Right. Maybe we shouldn't ask you how your week is at the beginning of each episode.
Oh boy.
Opening up a whole can of worms. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But yeah, remind me of that, because that should be coupled with one other one. There should be 2 stories told together with that one.
Okay. With Western Bob.
Western Bob and
the shadow people.
In the home, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I will.
As a matter of fact, when I won't tell you that. Oh, we'll save that. Anyway, do you have any other questions at all, Holly?
I don't think so. I just want to hear all these stories now. And I'm hoping that our listeners are feeling the same way.
Yeah. It's good. I think it's important that these stories be told, whether it be in written form or in the form that we're doing it now in the form of a podcast.
Right.
I think people need to know what's going on so that they don't think that they're ever alone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing, because if you think you're alone,
That's when
people start
bad
to think
things
bad
can
things start to
happen.
happen, and they won't always be this heavy. There are some stories that I need to tell you that are absolutely funny. And
Funny, and even I remember distinctly a couple of very sweet and tender experiences that you've had where, you know, it's very good. And this was in that same thread where it is heavy, but at the end, you know, he wants to say,
yeah,
give comfort to his mom.
yeah, and that's really the only way you can think it. It wasn't anything like the first podcast where someone was peering at you and
Right. No.
that real weird, odd feeling. And
Yeah. No, I think for sure intent perpetuates the grave. And so if they're still wanting to show love to their family members, they're going to find a way to do it.
Right. I agree. So at least I've seen it.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Well, I think we'll call it.
Okay.
So we'll put the time of death on this podcast. This episode. Did that make it too dark again? I'm really trying hard to find the line here.
Do we want to give it time? Beep.
Yeah, let's give it time.
Time of death, 2005.
2005. Oh my gosh. Yep. Well,
Okay.
again, thank you for joining us this week. Listeners, come back next week for Shadow People, for Creepiness in the Home, and for Western Bob.
Yeah, we'll come up with a title, but you'll recognize it.
You'll recognize it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, you guys.